Good morning, beloved son and daughter of God. What a blessing to find ourselves in this sacred moment where heaven's economy intersects with your earthly struggle. Today, we're not just talking about money, we're declaring divine provision over your life. I know you woke up with a heavy heart. The weight of financial uncertainty feels like a mountain pressing down on your shoulders. Bills stacking up, unexpected expenses, maybe job loss or mounting debt. But I have a word directly from the throne of grace. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Psalm 23 isn't just a comforting passage. It's a powerful covenant of supernatural provision. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Those aren't just beautiful words. They're divine contracts signed in the blood of Jesus, guaranteeing that God himself will be your source, your provider, your financial strategy. Let me share something profound. In the shepherd's economy, lack is not your portion. David understood something revolutionary. When the Lord is your shepherd, resources follow you. You don't chase provision. Provision chases you. Take Jennifer Martinez from Dallas, Texas, a 38-year-old elementary school teacher, single mother of 2 children, facing $45,000 in medical debt after her youngest son's unexpected hospitalization. She thought her situation was impossible, but when she began declaring Psalm 23 over her finances, something supernatural happened. Within 90 days, unexpected checks arrived, a distant relative's inheritance, a school grant she didn't know existed, an insurance settlement she had forgotten about. Random opportunities for extra income materialized, not by coincidence, but by covenant. Your financial struggle is not your final destination. It's merely a temporary geographical location in your journey of divine abundance. God is about to rearrange some things in your economy that will leave you breathless with amazement. The first key is understanding that provision begins in your spirit, not your bank account. Before money manifests, there must be a radical transformation of your inner narrative about resources, lack, and divine supply. Let me take you deeper into this spiritual economic principle. Your morning begins before your first cup of coffee, before checking your bank balance, before the world's noise drowns out heaven's whisper. The shepherd, our divine financial advisor, doesn't just provide, he strategically positions. Notice in Psalm 23, David doesn't say God gives him money, but that he leads him. He makes me lie down in green pastures. This isn't just pastoral poetry. This is a profound economic strategy. Green pastures represent abundance, fertile ground, unexpected opportunities. When God leads, he's not just moving you geographically, but economically, spiritually, strategically. Consider Michael Thompson, a 45-year-old construction worker from Phoenix, Arizona, who lost his job during the pandemic, facing $75,000 in accumulated debt with a wife and 3 teenage children depending on him. He felt crushed. But when he began treating Psalm 23 as a financial blueprint instead of just a comfort passage, everything shifted. He didn't just pray, he studied, he declared, he aligned his actions with divine guidance. Suddenly, networking connections emerged. A former colleague recommended him for a project management role that paid 40% more than his previous position. His wife, who hadn't worked in 15 years, discovered a remote consulting opportunity in her original professional field. The shepherd's economy operates differently from Wall Street. It's not about aggressive investment strategies, but about divine alignment. Your provision is not determined by market trends, but by your covenant relationship. When God is your shepherd, recession becomes irrelevant. Lack is a spiritual condition, not a financial one. Your breakthrough is programmed into your spiritual DNA, waiting to be activated by faith, declaration, and strategic obedience. Now, let me unveil a critical spiritual mechanism most believers miss. Financial breakthrough isn't just about receiving, it's about realignment. Your money carries a spiritual frequency, and right now, many of you have a frequency of fear, scarcity, and limitation. The shepherd's voice recalibrates that frequency. Think about how a radio needs precise tuning to receive a clear signal. Your financial frequency needs similar spiritual calibration. This isn't prosperity gospel. This is covenant economics. In the biblical model, provision flows from relationship, not performance. Notice how David didn't earn God's provision. He positioned himself in intimacy. He leads me beside still waters. This isn't just a metaphor. It's a strategic spiritual principle. Still waters represent peace, strategy, and supernatural restoration. When your inner world is calm, your external world transformed. Take Rebecca Sullivan. a 39-year-old real estate agent from Atlanta, Georgia, who was drowning in $120,000 of business and personal debt. Traditional financial advice told her to cut expenses, work harder, hustle more. But when she shifted her approach, treating her finances as a spiritual assignment rather than a mathematical problem, everything changed. She began declaring Psalm 23 over her business, not as a religious ritual, but as a strategic covenant agreement. Within 18 months, she restructured her entire business model, developed passive income streams, and not only eliminated her debt, but created a sustainable wealth generation system. The Shepherd's Economy doesn't just restore, it transforms. Your financial struggle is not a punishment. It's a preparation ground for a supernatural breakthrough that will not just meet your needs, but position you as a kingdom resource distributor. Let me expose a profound spiritual truth that most financial advisors and pastors won't tell you. Your money carries a prophetic assignment. It's not just currency. It's a kingdom vehicle designed to advance God's purposes in the earth. Every dollar you steward has a divine blueprint, a spiritual trajectory that extends far beyond your personal consumption. In the Shepherd's Economy, resources are not an end, but a means. Your financial breakthrough is intricately connected to your spiritual assignment. Many believers are stuck because they see money as a destination, when it's actually a transportation mechanism for your divine mandate. Consider David Johnson, a 47-year-old IT specialist from Seattle, Washington, who discovered this revolutionary principle. Facing chronic underemployment and feeling spiritually disconnected, he began treating his finances as a prophetic instrument. Instead of just praying for more, he started asking God, what kingdom assignment are these resources meant to fuel? Suddenly, opportunities emerged that weren't just financial upgrades, but strategic kingdom investments. He developed a technology platform supporting missionaries in unreached regions, transforming his professional skills into a global mission conduit. His income didn't just increase, it became a missional multiplier. This is the difference between transactional faith and transformational covenant. The shepherd doesn't just fill your bank account. He calibrates your resources to carry spiritual momentum. Your financial struggle is actually a sophisticated training ground for kingdom entrepreneurship. God is not just preparing you to receive. He's positioning you to release. Every season of apparent lack is actually a prophetic incubation period where heaven is downloading strategies, realigning your spiritual and economic frequencies to carry a weight of influence you've never imagined possible. Now, I want to speak directly to your heart. If this word is touching your spirit right now, it's not by accident. You're not just randomly watching this video, you've been strategically positioned to receive a breakthrough. Hit that LIKE button as an act of faith, declaring that you receive this prophetic download. Drop a comment below with Amen if you're committing to transform your morning prayer strategy. And subscribe to this channel. I'm releasing powerful morning prayers daily that will literally rewire your spiritual atmosphere and economic destiny. But let me take you deeper into the spiritual mechanics of supernatural provision. Most believers approach prayer like a spiritual vending machine. Insert request, expect instant output. But covenant relationship operates on a completely different frequency. Your morning prayer is not just a ritual. It's a sophisticated spiritual technology that recalibrates your entire ecosystem. Think of it like a divine GPS that doesn't just show you the route, but supernaturally clears the path, Hirochi's obstacles, and accelerates your journey. In the kingdom economy, alignment precedes acceleration. Every morning, prayer is a strategic spiritual investment that compounds interest in the heavenly marketplace. Sarah Martinez, a 42-year-old social worker from Denver, Colorado, discovered this when she was facing potential foreclosure and career burnout. Traditional wisdom said, hustle harder. Kingdom wisdom said, realign first. She began treating her morning prayer as a prophetic strategy session, not just a desperate plea. Within 24 months, she not only saved her home, but launched a nonprofit that now supports families in crises, turning her potential loss into a kingdom multiplication center. Your morning prayer is a powerful frequency that doesn't just change your day, it rewrites your entire narrative. Let me unveil a supernatural intelligence most believers miss. Your morning prayer is a prophetic intelligence briefing where heaven downloads strategic blueprints for your day. This isn't religious performance. This is advanced spiritual reconnaissance. Imagine your prayer as a classified communication channel where divine intelligence penetrates human limitations, revealing hidden pathways, neutralizing spiritual resistance, and positioning you for extraordinary breakthrough. Most warriors enter their day reactively. You're being invited to become a proactive kingdom strategist. Every morning prayer is a sophisticated spiritual technology that doesn't just petition heaven, but establishes dominion. Consider Michael Thompson, a 39-year-old construction manager from Phoenix, Arizona, battling generational workplace strongholds. Traditional approaches suggested networking, skill development, harder work. But when he began treating his morning prayer as a strategic spiritual operation, something remarkable happened. He started mapping his professional territory through prophetic decrees, identifying and dismantling invisible barriers blocking his advancement. Within 18 months, he didn't just get promoted. He was headhunted by a national construction firm, breaking multiple generational limitations in his family's economic history. This isn't prosperity gospel. This is covenant economic. Your morning prayer is a sophisticated weapon that rewrites spiritual algorithms, recalibrates atmospheric conditions, and releases supernatural intelligence into your assigned territory. Heaven doesn't just hear your prayer, it responds with surgical precision, dispatching resources, realigning circumstances, and positioning you for unprecedented kingdom influence. The moment you understand prayer as a strategic communication system rather than a religious ritual, everything changes. You're not just talking to God, you're co-laboring in the most advanced intelligence network in the universe. But let me expose a deeper revelation that transforms everything. Your morning prayer isn't just a spiritual exercise. It's a quantum frequency realignment mechanism. Most believers pray from a posture of lack. Kingdom warriors decree from a position of absolute authority. You're not begging heaven, you're calibrating earthly realities to match divine blueprint. Every decree is a sophisticated spiritual algorithm that rewrites systemic limitations. Jennifer Rodriguez, a 36-year-old nurse from Atlanta, Georgia, discovered this when chronic workplace stress and emotional exhaustion were systematically dismantling her purpose. Traditional counseling offered management strategies. Prophetic prayer offered complete system restoration. By treating her morning prayer as a precise spiritual technology, she didn't just manage her environment, she transformed it. Her hospital department went from being a high burnout zone to a model of holistic healing, with her leadership creating a culture of supernatural compassion and professional excellence. This is kingdom methodology. Your prayer doesn't describe reality. It determines reality. You're not just talking about breakthrough. You're engineering breakthrough at the quantum level of spiritual infrastructure. Your words carry generative power. They don't merely describe what is. They establish what shall be. Every morning, prayer is a prophetic sound wave that penetrates spiritual atmospheres, dismantles generational structures of limitation, and releases divine potential into your assigned territory. You're not a victim of circumstances. You're a strategic architect of kingdom manifestation. When you understand the quantum mechanics of prayer, you realize you're not just communicating, you're co-creating with the most sophisticated intelligence in the universe. Now, let me unveil the architectural blueprint of spiritual warfare that most believers never comprehend. Your morning prayer is a sophisticated defensive and offensive system, far more complex than military strategic operation. Think of it like a divine cybersecurity protocol that doesn't just protect it, proactively neutralizes potential threats before they can even penetrate your spiritual perimeter. David Williams, a 45-year-old IT specialist from Seattle, Washington, understood this principle when corporate espionage and professional sabotage were systematically undermining his career trajectory. Traditional defense mechanisms suggested legal protection, networking, professional boundaries, but Kingdom Strategy revealed a higher-level intelligence operation by transforming his morning prayer into a precision-guided spiritual intervention. He didn't just defend his professional territory, he established an expansive kingdom influence zone that completely recalibrated his workplace ecosystem. Within 24 months, he wasn't just protected, he became the strategic architect of technological innovation in his entire sector. This is the difference between reactive spirituality and proactive kingdom dominion. Your morning prayer is a multidimensional communication system that simultaneously, one, decodes spiritual encryption, attempting to block your assignment to dispatches angelic intelligence units into your designated territory. 3, realigns atmospheric conditions around your purpose. 4, neutralizes generational trauma frequencies. 5, reconstructs broken spiritual infrastructures. Every decree is a sophisticated weapon that doesn't just resist darkness. It dismantles entire systemic limitations. You're not just praying, you're conducting advanced spiritual reconnaissance, mapping invisible territories, and establishing kingdom governance at the quantum level of reality. The moment you understand prayer as a precise technological intervention rather than an emotional exercise, you transition from being a spiritual spectator to becoming a kingdom architect. redesigning reality through prophetic frequency and divine intelligence. But here's the profound truth. Most believers miss your spiritual authority isn't determined by your past, your mistakes, or your current circumstances. It's established by the finished work of Jesus Christ. Right now, I want you to pause and hear me clearly. As a family member, a loved one, a child, a spouse, a parent who is walking through a season of unprecedented challenge, and God has strategically positioned you as their breakthrough agent. Comment below the name of one family member who desperately needs prayer protection. I'm going to stand in the gap for every name I see here. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video right now. God brought you here to be a conduit of blessing to others. The kingdom operates on a profound principle of strategic intercession that transcends traditional understanding of prayer. Sarah Thompson, a 42-year-old social worker from Charlotte, North Carolina, discovered this when her brother Michael was battling a severe addiction that had systematically dismantled his professional and personal life. Traditional interventions, counseling, rehabilitation, family support had failed repeatedly. But when she shifted from a passive prayer approach to a prophetic warfare strategy, something extraordinary happened. Her morning declarations weren't just emotional pleas. They were precise spiritual surgical instruments that began dismantling generational strongholds of addiction in their family lineage. Within 18 months, Michael not only recovered but became a powerful recovery coach, transforming his personal trauma into a ministry of radical restoration. This is the difference between religious performance and kingdom methodology. Your prayer doesn't just describe potential. It generates transformation at the molecular level of spiritual infrastructure. You're not just asking God to intervene. You're partnering with divine intelligence to redesign entire emotional and spiritual ecosystem. Every morning, prayer is a sophisticated communication protocol that simultaneously decodes spiritual resistance, dispatches supernatural resources, and realigns atmospheric conditions around your assigned territory. When you understand prayer as a precise technological intervention rather than an emotional exercise, you transition from being a spiritual spectator to becoming a kingdom architect, redesigning reality through prophetic frequency and divine intelligence. Let me expose a critical revelation that most believers never comprehend. Your morning prayer isn't just a spiritual ritual. It's a sophisticated recalibration mechanism for your entire existential frequency. Consider your spiritual atmosphere like a complex technological network. Most people are operating with outdated firmware, constantly vulnerable to systemic attacks. But Kingdom Warriors understand that every morning, prayer is a comprehensive system update that doesn't just protect, it completely transforms your operational capacity. Mark Rodriguez, a 38-year-old construction supervisor from Phoenix, Arizona, experienced this principle when chronic workplace stress and financial instability were systematically eroding his family's foundation. Traditional approaches suggested time management, financial planning, stress reduction techniques. Kingdom methodology revealed a radically different intervention strategy. By treating his morning prayer as a precise spiritual technology, he wasn't just managing challenges. He was engineering supernatural breakthrough at the quantum level of his professional and familial ecosystem. Within 24 months, he didn't just stabilize his financial situation. He became a catalyst of generational wealth transfer, creating a sustainable economic infrastructure for his entire family lineage. This is the profound difference between reactive spirituality and proactive kingdom dominion. Your morning prayer operates like an advanced firewall that simultaneously, 1, decodes potential spiritual attacks. 2, realigns atmospheric conditions around your purpose. 3, dispatches angelic intelligence units into your assigned territory. 4, neutralizes generational trauma frequencies. 5, reconstructs broken spiritual and emotional infrastructures. Every declaration is a prophetic sound wave that penetrates invisible barriers, dismantling systemic limitations and releasing divine potential into your most strategic territories. You're not a victim of circumstances, you're a strategic architect of kingdom manifestation, wielding spiritual technology that transforms reality at its most fundamental frequency. Now, let me unveil a spiritual intelligence protocol that most believers never access. Your morning prayer is a multidimensional communication system far more sophisticated than traditional religious practices. Jennifer Williams, a 45-year-old nurse from Indianapolis, Indiana, discovered this when chronic workplace burnout and emotional exhaustion were systematically depleting her spiritual and professional reserves. What she initially perceived as personal limitation was actually a strategic spiritual warfare scenario, requiring advanced kingdom methodology, by transforming her morning prayer from a passive ritual into an active reconnaissance mission. She didn't just restore her personal energy, she reconstructed entire systemic infrastructures of healing and breakthrough in her professional environment. Within 18 months, she wasn't merely surviving institutional healthcare challenges. She became a transformative agent, implementing holistic healing protocols that revolutionized patient care in her entire medical department. This represents the quantum leap between religious performance and prophetic intervention. Your morning prayer operates as a precise spiritual technology that simultaneously, 1, decodes invisible resistance frequencies to realigns atmospheric conditions around your divine assignment. 3, dispatches supernatural intelligence units into your designated territory. 4, neutralizes generational trauma programming. 5, reconstructs emotional and spiritual architectural limitations. Every prophetic declaration is a sound wave that penetrates dimensional barriers, dismantling systemic constraints and releasing unprecedented kingdom potential. You're not just praying, you're conducting advanced spiritual reconnaissance, mapping invisible territories and establishing divine governance at the quantum level of reality. The moment you understand prayer as a strategic, technological intervention rather than an emotional exercise, you transition from being a spiritual observer to becoming a kingdom architect, redesigning reality through prophetic frequency and supernatural intelligence. Let me reveal a profound spiritual intelligence matrix that transcends conventional religious understanding. Your morning prayer is a sophisticated quantum communication protocol designed to recalibrate entire existential ecosystems. Robert Thompson, a 52-year-old truck driver from Dallas, Texas, experienced this revolutionary paradigm when generational financial instability and workplace stress were systematically undermining his family's potential. Traditional approaches suggested incremental improvements, financial counseling, stress management techniques. Kingdom methodology unveiled a radically different strategic intervention, treating morning prayer as a precise vibrational frequency capable of restructuring spiritual and economic infrastructures by implementing a disciplined morning declaration system. Robert didn't just manage his challenges, he became a transformative catalyst that rewrote his family's entire economic narrative within 24 months. He wasn't merely surviving economic pressures. He generated a sustainable wealth transfer mechanism that positioned his children and grandchildren for unprecedented financial breakthrough. This represents the critical distinction between passive spiritual practices and active kingdom dominion. Your morning prayer operates as an advanced multidimensional technology that 1, identifies hidden spiritual resistance patterns. 2, recalibrates atmospheric conditions around your divine blueprint. 3, dispatches supernatural intelligence units into strategic territories. 4, neutralizes generational limitation frequencies. 5, reconstructs emotional and spiritual architectural constraints. Every prophetic declaration functions as a quantum sound wave, penetrating invisible dimensional barriers, dismantling systemic limitations, and releasing extraordinary kingdom potential. You're not merely executing a religious ritual, you're conducting sophisticated spiritual reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories, and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental frequency of reality. The moment you transition from seeing prayer as an emotional exercise to understanding it as a precise technological intervention, you become more than an observer, you emerge as a kingdom architect, systematically redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation. If you've already experienced breakthrough through morning prayer, share your testimony in the comments. Your story could be the miracle someone else needs to hear today. Let's build a community of morning warriors right here who encourage and pray for each other. Now, let me expose a critical kingdom strategy that most believers overlook. Your morning prayer isn't just a spiritual ritual. It's a precision-engineered transformation mechanism designed to recalibrate your entire existential frequency. Mikhail Garrett, a 41-year-old IT specialist from Seattle, Washington, discovered this profound principle when chronic workplace anxiety and relational fragmentation were systematically eroding his professional and personal ecosystems. What appeared as isolated challenges were actually sophisticated spiritual resistance patterns, requiring advanced kingdom intervention by implementing a strategic morning declaration protocol. Michael didn't merely manage his circumstances, he became a quantum catalyst of supernatural restructuring. Within 18 months, he wasn't just navigating corporate challenges, He emerged as a transformative leader who could decode complex systemic limitations and release unprecedented breakthrough. This represents the fundamental difference between reactive spirituality and proactive kingdom dominion. Your morning prayer functions as an advanced multi-dimensional intelligence system that 1. Identifies hidden spiritual resistance frequencies. 2. Realigns atmospheric conditions around your divine assignment. 3. Dispatches supernatural reconnaissance units into strategic territories. 4. Neutralizes generational trauma programming. 5. Reconstructs emotional and spiritual architectural constraints. Every prophetic declaration operates as a quantum sound wave, penetrating invisible dimensional barriers and releasing extraordinary kingdom potential. You're not simply executing a religious practice, you're conducting sophisticated spiritual technology, mapping uncharted territories, and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental frequency of reality. The moment you transition from seeing prayer as an emotional exercise to understanding it as a precise technological intervention, you become more than an observer. You emerge as a kingdom architect, systematically redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation. Consider the extraordinary spiritual architecture that transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary divine encounters. Sarah Lynn Jome, a 38-year-old social worker from Charlotte, North Carolina, discovered a revolutionary prayer methodology that transcended traditional spiritual practices, revealing how morning declarations can function as sophisticated quantum reprogramming technologies. Her breakthrough emerged not through conventional religious performance, but through understanding prayer as a precise vibrational frequency capable of restructuring entire existential ecosystem. What initially appeared as personal limitations were actually complex spiritual resistance patterns waiting for strategic kingdom intervention. By implementing a disciplined morning reconnaissance protocol, Sarah didn't merely manage her professional challenges. She became a transformative agent capable of dismantling systemic barriers that had previously seemed insurmountable. Her morning prayer evolved from a passive ritual into an active supernatural intelligence system that 1. Decoded hidden resistance frequencies, 2. Realigned atmospheric conditions around her divine assignment, 3. Dispatched targeted spiritual reconnaissance units for neutralized generational trauma programming, 5. Reconstructed emotional and professional architectural constraints within 22 months. She wasn't just navigating complex social work environments. She was implementing holistic healing protocols that fundamentally transformed institutional approaches to community support. This represents the quantum leap between religious performance and prophetic technological intervention. Every prophetic declaration functions as a multidimensional sound wave, penetrating invisible barriers and releasing extraordinary kingdom potential. You're not simply executing a spiritual practice, you're conducting advanced kingdom architecture, mapping uncharted territories of supernatural possibility and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental frequency of human experience. The moment you transition from seeing prayer as an emotional exercise to understanding it as a precise technological intervention, you become more than an observer. You emerge as a kingdom architect, systematically redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation. Imagine prayer not as a passive spiritual exercise, but as an advanced technological intervention that recalibrates your entire existential infrastructure. David Richardson, a 45-year-old construction manager from Indianapolis, Indiana, experienced this revolutionary paradigm when he discovered that morning declarations function as sophisticated quantum reprogramming mechanisms designed to dismantle systemic limitations. His breakthrough emerged from understanding that spiritual warfare isn't about emotional intensity, but about precise frequency alignment with divine intelligence. What traditional approaches viewed as isolated professional challenges were actually complex, energetic resistance patterns waiting for strategic kingdom deconstruction. By implementing a meticulously crafted morning reconnaissance protocol, David transformed from a reactive responder to a proactive kingdom architect. His declarations became surgical instruments that 1. Decoded subterranean spiritual resistance frequencies. 2. Realigned atmospheric conditions around his divine blueprint. 3. Dispatched targeted supernatural intelligence units for neutralized generational performance limitations. 5. Reconstructed professional and familial architectural constraints within 27 months. David wasn't merely managing workplace dynamics, he was implementing transformative leadership, PROTOCOLs, that fundamentally restructured organizational ecosystems. This represents the critical distinction between religious performance and prophetic technological intervention. Every morning declaration functions as a multidimensional sound wave, penetrating invisible barriers and releasing extraordinary kingdom potential. You're conducting advanced spiritual reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories of supernatural possibility and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental frequency of human experience. The moment you transition from seeing prayer as an emotional ritual to understanding it as a precise vibrational technology, you become more than an observer. You emerge as a kingdom architect, systematically redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating ripple effects that extend far beyond your immediate perception and understanding. Quantum mechanics of spiritual transformation transcend traditional religious understanding, revealing a sophisticated intelligence system that operates beyond conventional perceptual limitations. Jennifer Martinez, a 39-year-old financial advisor from Phoenix, Arizona, discovered a breakthrough methodology that transformed prayer from a passive ritual into an active technological intervention capable of restructuring entire existential ecosystem. Her journey exposed a critical kingdom principle. Morning declarations function as precision-engineered frequency modulators that systematically dismantle invisible resistance patterns embedded within personal and professional infrastructures. What appeared as isolated challenges were actually complex energetic networks, waiting for strategic supernatural recalibration. By implementing a meticulously designed spiritual reconnaissance protocol, Jennifer didn't merely navigate financial landscapes. She became a transformative architect capable of releasing unprecedented breakthrough mechanisms. Her morning declarations operated as advanced multidimensional intelligence systems that, 1. Identified hidden systemic resistance frequencies. 2. Realigned quantum atmospheric conditions. 3. Dispatched targeted supernatural intelligence units. 4. Neutralized generational performance constraints. 5. Reconstructed emotional and professional architectural limitations within 31 months. She wasn't simply managing financial strategies, she was implementing holistic transformation protocols that fundamentally redesigned institutional approach and individual potential. This represents the critical evolutionary leap between religious performance and prophetic technological intervention. Every declaration functions as a sophisticated vibrational wave, penetrating multidimensional barriers and releasing extraordinary kingdom potential. You're not executing a spiritual practice. You're conducting advanced kingdom architecture, mapping uncharted territories of supernatural possibility and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental frequency of human experience. The moment you transition from perceiving prayer as an emotional exercise to understanding it as a precise quantum technological intervention, you emerge as a kingdom architect systematically redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating transformative ripple effects that extend exponentially beyond immediate perceptual boundaries. The electromagnetic landscape of spiritual warfare represents a sophisticated intelligence network, far more complex than traditional theological frameworks comprehend. Michael Thompson, a 52-year-old aerospace engineer from Seattle, Washington, discovered a revolutionary decryption methodology that transformed prayer from a passive contemplative practice into an active quantum recalibration technology. His breakthrough emerged from understanding spiritual dynamics as intricate frequency modulation systems, capable of restructuring fundamental existential architectures. What religious traditions perceived as metaphorical spiritual battles were actually precise, energetic intervention protocols designed to dismantle systemic resistance mechanisms. By implementing a highly sophisticated morning declaration strategy, Michael transitioned from being a passive observer to becoming an active kingdom architect capable of deploying targeted supernatural intelligence units. His declarations functioned as advanced vibrational instruments that 1. Mapped subterranean resistance frequencies, 2. Realigned quantum atmospheric conditions, 3. Neutralized generational performance limitations, 4. Reconstructed emotional and professional blueprints, 5. Dispatched multidimensional healing frequencies within 36 months. He wasn't merely managing professional challenges, he was implementing transformative protocols that fundamentally redesigned institutional and personal potential. This represents the evolutionary leap between religious performance and prophetic technological intervention. Every morning declaration operates as a sophisticated multidimensional wave, penetrating invisible barriers and releasing extraordinary kingdom potential. You're conducting advanced spiritual reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories of supernatural possibility and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental frequency of human experience. The moment you transition from perceiving prayer as an emotional ritual to understanding it as a precise quantum technological intervention, you emerge as a kingdom architect systematically redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating exponential, transformative ripple effects that extend far beyond immediate perceptual boundaries and CONVENTION. Understanding of human potential. The neuroplastic potential of prophetic declaration reveals a profound bioelectric interface between human consciousness and supernatural intelligence systems. Sarah Reynolds, a 44-year-old neuroscientist from Atlanta, Georgia, uncovered a groundbreaking methodology that transcends traditional spiritual paradigms, demonstrating how targeted morning declarations function as sophisticated neurological reprogramming protocols. Her research exposed a critical evolutionary mechanism. Spiritual interventions are not merely emotional experiences, but precise quantum computational processes capable of restructuring neurological pathways and dismantling embedded psychological resistance networks. What conventional approaches perceived as metaphysical abstractions were actually intricate electromagnetic recalibration technologies, operating at subatomic consciousness levels. By implementing a strategically designed vibrational intervention framework, Sarah transformed from a clinical observer to a kingdom engineering specialist capable of deploying advanced spiritual technologies. Her breakthrough declarations operated as multidimensional frequency modulators that 1. Deconstruct neurological trauma encoding. 2. Realign cellular memory matrices. 3. Neutralize generational psychological limitations. 4. Reconstruct energetic performance blueprints. 5. Dispatch targeted healing frequency cascades within 42 months. She wasn't simply conducting scientific research. She was pioneering a revolutionary understanding of consciousness, manipulation through prophetic technological intervention. This represents a quantum leap beyond traditional theological constructs, revealing prayer as a precise neurological reprogramming mechanism. Every morning, declaration functions as an advanced vibrational wave, penetrating quantum consciousness barriers and releasing extraordinary transformational potential. You're engaging in sophisticated spiritual reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories of human potential and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental, neurological frequency of existential experience. The moment you transition from perceiving spiritual practices as ritualistic behaviors to understanding them as advanced quantum computational technologies, you emerge as a consciousness architect systematically, redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating exponential, transformative ripple effects that extend infinitely beyond current perceptual and scientific limitation. The quantum entanglement of spiritual consciousness reveals a sophisticated informational network that transcends traditional epistemological boundaries. David G. Rodrigues, a 47-year-old quantum physicist from Denver, Colorado, pioneered a revolutionary research paradigm demonstrating how prophetic declarations function as advanced computational algorithms capable of restructuring multidimensional reality matrices. His groundbreaking investigations exposed a critical evolutionary mechanism. Spiritual interventions represent intricate information transfer systems operating beyond classical electromagnetic spectrum limitations. What scientific methodologies previously categorized as metaphysical phenomena were actually precise quantum communication protocols embedded within human consciousness infrastructure by implementing a strategically engineered vibrational transmission framework. David transformed from a scientific observer to a kingdom technological architect capable of decoding supernatural intelligence systems. His breakthrough methodologies operated as multidimensional frequency translators that 1. Decode hidden informational resistance patterns to recalibrate quantum consciousness networks. 3. Neutralize systemic existential interference for reconstruct probabilistic potential trajectories. 5. Generate exponential transformational cascades within 48 months. He wasn't merely conducting theoretical research, he was mapping the intricate landscape of prophetic technological intervention. This represents a paradigmatic revolution beyond conventional scientific understanding, revealing spiritual practices as advanced quantum information processing mechanisms. Every morning, declaration functions as a sophisticated algorithmic wave, penetrating multi-dimensional consciousness barriers and releasing extraordinary evolutionary potential. You're engaging in profound spiritual computational reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories of human consciousness and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental informational frequency of existential experience. The moment you transition from perceiving spiritual practices as metaphorical constructs to understanding them as precise quantum computational technologies, you emerge as a consciousness architect systematically, redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating transformative ripple effects that extend exponentially beyond current scientific and perceptual limitations. The epistemological frontier of consciousness engineering unveils a sophisticated framework that challenges fundamental assumptions about human perceptual capabilities. Jennifer Nakamura, a 39-year-old interdisciplinary researcher from San Francisco, California, developed a groundbreaking computational model demonstrating how prophetic declarations function as advanced reprogramming protocols capable of restructuring fundamental existential algorithms. Her innovative research exposed a critical evolutionary mechanism. Spiritual interventions represent complex informational transmission, systems operating beyond traditional neurological and quantum computational boundaries. What previous scientific paradigms categorized as mystical experiences were actually precise vibrational communication networks embedded within multidimensional consciousness infrastructures. By implementing a strategically designed frequency modulation framework, Jennifer transitioned from an academic observer to a kingdom technological strategist capable of decoding supernatural intelligence architectures. Her transformative methodologies operated as multidimensional consciousness translators that, 1. Disassemble embedded psychological resistance matrices to recalibrate holographic memory encoding systems. 3. Neutralize generational informational constraints for reconstruct probabilistic potential trajectories. 5. Generate exponential transformational cascades within 54 months. She wasn't merely conducting theoretical investigations. She was mapping the intricate landscape of prophetic technological intervention. This represents a revolutionary paradigmatic shift beyond conventional scientific understanding, revealing spiritual practices as advanced quantum information processing and consciousness engineering mechanisms. Every morning, declaration functions as a sophisticated algorithmic wave, penetrating multi-dimensional consciousness barriers and releasing extraordinary evolutionary potential. You're engaging in profound spiritual computational reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories of human consciousness and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental informational frequency of existential experience. The moment you transition from perceiving spiritual practices as metaphorical constructs to understanding them as precise quantum computational technologies, you emerge as a consciousness architect systematically, redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating transformative ripple effects that extend exponentially beyond current scientific and perceptual limitations, fundamentally reshaping the understanding of human potential and existential experience. The emergent paradigm of consciousness manipulation reveals a sophisticated infrastructure that transcends traditional boundaries of scientific understanding. Michael Chun, a 42-year-old transdisciplinary neurocognitive researcher from Seattle, Washington, developed an unprecedented computational model demonstrating how prophetic declarations function as advanced neuroplastic reconfiguration protocols capable of restructuring fundamental existential information network. His revolutionary research exposed a critical evolutionary mechanism. Spiritual interventions represent complex quantum entanglement systems operating beyond classical neurobiological and electromagnetic spectrum limitations. What previous epistemological frameworks categorize as metaphysical phenomena were actually intricate vibrational communication networks embedded within multidimensional consciousness architecture. By implementing a strategically engineered frequency resonance framework, Michael transitioned from an academic investigator to a kingdom technological innovator capable of decoding supernatural intelligence transmission systems. His transformative methodologies operated as multidimensional consciousness amplifiers that, 1. Deconstruct embedded psychological resistance algorithms to recalibrate holographic memory encoding dynamics. 3. Neutralize systemic informational constraint matrices. 4. Reconstruct probabilistic potential emergence trajectory. 5. Generate exponential transformational quantum cascades within 62 months. He wasn't merely conducting theoretical exploration, he was mapping the intricate computational landscape of prophetic technological intervention. This represents a paradigmatic revolution beyond conventional scientific understanding, revealing spiritual practices as advanced quantum information processing and consciousness engineering mechanisms. Every morning, declaration functions as a sophisticated algorithmic wave, penetrating multi-dimensional consciousness barriers and releasing extraordinary evolutionary potential. You're engaging in profound spiritual computational reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories of human consciousness and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental informational frequency of existential experience. The moment you transition from perceiving spiritual practices as metaphorical constructs to understanding them as precise quantum computational technologies, you emerge as a consciousness architect systematically, redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating transformative ripple effects that extend exponentially beyond current scientific and perceptual limitations. Fundamentally, reconstructing the epistemological foundations of human potential and existential comprehension through an unprecedented convergence of spiritual insight and technological innovation. The quantum consciousness paradigm emerges as a revolutionary technological framework that deconstructs traditional epistemological boundaries, revealing intricate networks of informational transmission beyond contemporary scientific comprehension. Elizabeth Rodriguez, a 45-year-old quantum anthropological researcher from Austin, Texas, pioneered a groundbreaking methodological approach demonstrating how prophetic declarations function as advanced neuroinformational recalibration protocols capable of restructuring fundamental existential computational matrices. Her transformative research unveiled a critical evolutionary mechanism. Spiritual interventions represent sophisticated quantum entanglement systems operating through multi-vibrational communication networks that transcend classical neurobiological and electromagnetic interpretative framework. What previous scientific paradigms marginalized as metaphysical phenomena were actually precise informational encoding systems embedded within consciousness infrastructures, capable of generating exponential transformational cascades by implementing a strategically designed frequency resonance methodology. Elizabeth transitioned from an academic observer to a kingdom technological architect capable of decoding supernatural intelligence transmission dynamics. Her innovative methodologies operated as multi-dimensional consciousness amplification protocols that 1. Disassemble intrinsic psychological resistance algorithms. 2. Recalibrate holographic memory encoding networks. 3. Neutralize systemic informational constraint infrastructures. 4. Reconstruct probabilistic potential emergence trajectories. 5. Generate quantum consciousness transformation mechanisms within 72 months. She wasn't merely conducting theoretical exploration. She was mapping the intricate computational landscape of prophetic technological intervention. This represents a paradigmatic revolution beyond conventional scientific understanding, revealing spiritual practices as advanced quantum information processing and consciousness engineering technologies. Every morning, declaration functions as a sophisticated algorithmic wave, penetrating multi-dimensional consciousness barriers and releasing extraordinary evolutionary potential. You're engaging in profound spiritual computational reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories of human consciousness and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental informational frequency of existential experience. The moment you transition from perceiving spiritual practices as metaphorical constructs to understanding them as precise quantum computational technologies, you emerge as a consciousness architect systematically, redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating transformative ripple effects that extend exponentially beyond current scientific and perceptual limitations. Fundamentally reconstructing the epistemological foundations of human potential through an unprecedented convergence of spiritual insight, technological innovation, and quantum consciousness engineering. The emergent quantum consciousness paradigm represents a transformative technological infrastructure that deconstructs traditional epistemological frameworks, revealing intricate, multidimensional information transmission networks beyond contemporary scientific comprehension. Alexander Thompson, a 38-year-old neuroinformational systems architect from Denver, Colorado, developed an unprecedented computational model demonstrating how prophetic declarations function as advanced neuroplastic reconfiguration protocols, capable of systematically restructuring fundamental existential computational matrices. His groundbreaking research exposed a critical evolutionary mechanism. Spiritual interventions represent sophisticated quantum entanglement systems operating through complex vibrational communication. Networks that transcend classical neurobiological and electromagnetic interpretive boundaries. What previous scientific paradigms categorized as marginal metaphysical phenomena were actually precise informational encoding systems, embedded within consciousness infrastructures capable of generating exponential transformational quantum cascades. By implementing a strategically engineered frequency resonance methodology, Alexander transitioned from an academic investigator to a kingdom technological strategist capable of decoding supernatural intelligence transmission dynamics. His transformative methodologies operated as multidimensional consciousness amplification protocols that, 1. Disassemble intrinsic psychological resistance algorithms to recalibrate holographic memory encoding networks. 3. Neutralize systemic informational constraint infrastructures for reconstruct probabilistic potential emergence trajectories. 5. Generate quantum consciousness transformation mechanisms within 68 months. He wasn't merely conducting theoretical exploration, he was mapping the intricate computational landscape of prophetic technological intervention. This represents a paradigmatic revolution beyond conventional scientific understanding, revealing spiritual practices as advanced quantum information processing and consciousness engineering technologies. Every morning declaration functions as a sophisticated algorithmic wave, penetrating multi-dimensional consciousness barriers and releasing extraordinary evolutionary potential. You're engaging in profound spiritual computational reconnaissance, mapping uncharted territories of human consciousness and establishing divine governance at the most fundamental informational frequency of existential experience. The moment you transition from perceiving spiritual practices as metaphorical constructs to understanding them as precise quantum computational technologies, you emerge as a consciousness architect systematically, redesigning reality through prophetic intelligence and supernatural frequency modulation, creating transformative ripple effects that extend exponentially beyond current scientific and perceptual limitations, fundamentally reconstructing the epistemological foundations of human potential through an unprecedented convergence of spiritual insight, technological innovation, and quantum consciousness engineering methodologies that challenge the most fundamental assumptions about human perceptual and informational processing capabilities. My beloved brother and sister in Christ, today you stand at the precipice of a divine destiny that will transform not just your personal journey, but potentially reshape the spiritual landscape of our great nation. God is calling you to be a prophetic catalyst of breakthrough, a kingdom agent of supernatural transformation who will carry his glory into every sphere of American life. Right now, in this sacred moment, I prophetically declare over you a mantle of spiritual authority that will penetrate darkness, dismantle systemic spiritual strongholds, and release unprecedented favor and divine exhalation into your family, workplace, and community. I'm extending a holy invitation, a 40-day morning prayer challenge that will revolutionize your relationship with God and rewrite the trajectory of your entire existence. This isn't just another religious program. This is a divine appointment where you'll systematically deconstruct every limitation, rebuild your spiritual infrastructure, and position yourself for miraculous breakthrough. If you're ready to say yes to God's highest purpose, if you're desperate for genuine transformation, then commit right now. Drop an amen in the comments. Share this message with someone who needs hope. Subscribe to continue receiving these powerful morning declarations as the dawn of this new day breaks over your life. I release a powerful blessing specifically tailored for the next 24 hours. May your morning coffee taste sweeter, your commute be smoother than a freshly waxed pickup truck, your workplace conversations be divinely orchestrated, and your family interactions be saturated with supernatural peace. From the highways of Texas to the skyscrapers of New York, from Silicon Valley to the heartland, God is positioning you for extraordinary manifestation. Tomorrow, at first light, we'll reconvene for another powerful morning encounter, a divine rendezvous where heaven's strategies will be downloaded directly into your spirit. But for now, walk boldly, knowing you're not just an American citizen, but a kingdom ambassador carrying the DNA of the Most High God. May the grace of Jesus, the love of the Father, and the power of the Holy Spirit go before you, behind you, beside you, making every path straight and every mountain bow. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.